Ready? All right. Staff ready?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and we do have quorum, so you may
Did our
proceed.
secretary just run out the door? Oh. Okay. If we're ready, we'll call this meeting to order. This is the North Miami Planning Commission, meeting Tuesday, February the 9th, 2016 at 7 p.m. in council chambers. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call of board members, please.
Chair Kevin Seifried,
Present.
Vice Chair Charles Ernst,
Excused.
Commissioner Kenny Each,
Present.
Commissioner Jason James.
I have not heard from Jason. I saw him the other night and,
He called to say he'll be here. I guess he's running a little late.
okay. All right.
Commissioner Emmanuel Genti, same with him.
Okay.
Commissioner Peggy Boulay, I haven't heard from her.
Okay.
And Commissioner Bob Pichon.
Present. Don't forget me.
Commissioner Michael McDermott.
Present.
All right. Well, we've got 4 out of 6 anyway, for sure. All right. Do we have any amendments to the agenda? None. Okay. Can we get to the approval of minutes of January 5th, 2016?
So move.
Mike moves for approval. Bob, did you second?
I did.
Aye. Bob Pinchon second. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. We have no communications, therefore we go on to our public hearings. Let me sign the minutes page first. All right, Madam Secretary, thank you. All right, item 4, continued public hearings. PCO 1-16, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving the execution of the campus development agreement in substantially the attached form between the city of North Miami and the Florida International University Board of Trustees in accordance with section 1013.30 Florida Statutes 2015, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. Staff report, please.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission and members of the audience. Next on the City Planner. This is a resolution to approve the execution of the Florida International University Campus Development Agreement. And this item was first scheduled at the January 5th Planning Commission meeting, but was rescheduled because the members of the school or the university were not present. Today they're here, they are in attendance. As a background, this is a statutory requirement because the Florida statutes require that each university prepare and adopt an updated campus master plan every 5 years to identify, the general land use and outline the goals, objective, and policy of the university during the following 10 or to 20 years. The FIU submitted their campus master plan last year in 2014. March 2014, and then which was reviewed by staff administratively. It wasn't reviewed by the Planning Commission nor the City Council because it was only required to be reviewed by staff for consistency with the City Comprehensive Plan. After review by staff, we forwarded some revision to the school. They have since adopted that master plan, and then furthermore, the Florida statute require that within 9 months of the adoption of the master plan, that the university submit or draft a campus development agreement with the city, and that should have a duration of 5 to 10 years also. So they have provided that campus to us. We have reviewed it, and then we have found in the campus to meet the requirements of our comprehensive plan, and we are recommending that the City Council, the Planning Commission recommend adoption of the resolution to execute that agreement. And at this point, I know the staff, from the school is present, and I would like them to introduce themselves and also, have a presentation to be able to answer all of your questions. Thank you.
All right, will the representatives of FIU please stand and be recognized? Gentlemen, if you'll come forward and identify yourselves into the record and tell us your relationship so we understand each of you and what we're doing here.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us here. My name is John Cal. I'm the Associate Vice President for Facilities Management at FIU.
All right, sir.
Good evening. My name is Robert Griffith. I'm the Director of Planning for Facilities Management at FIU.
Thank you.
My name is Stuart Grant. I'm a planning coordinator for Florida International University.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Isabel Diaz, and I am the Associate General Counsel at FIU.
Thank you very much. All right, welcome. Do any of you wish to lead off with a presentation at this point?
We do not have a prepared presentation. We believe that Mr. LeBrun's summary adequately presents the campus development agreement, and we're here to answer or respond to any questions that you may have.
All right, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this issue is invited to step forward, state your name and address. Second call for any member of the public wishing to speak to this. I hear no thundering herd. I see no rising cloud of dust. Therefore, I assume on third call we have no member of the public wishing to speak to this. The public hearing is closed. Thank you very much. To begin discussion on this, I'm going to turn to Bob Pinchon first.
Good evening, gentlemen. I read your comprehensive plan. It's quite a plan, by the way. And as I was going through it, I figured one of the things we needed to look at was what is the impact on the city? What are your plans? How do we together work to make sure that the city can support your growth and that there's nothing unexpected that pops up along the way. So the thing that is typically pretty close to the top of my list is traffic. And as I looked through the presentation you made last month when we looked at it, all of the traffic seems to be, I think in the language of your presentation, is that there's no detrimental impact of anything that's taking place with your plans based upon the existing, which you know to be the existing plans for all the traffic patterns, the major streets and the arteries that surround your property. At that time, there was a later traffic study that you guys did about 6 or 7 months later that was specifically a traffic study that seemed to be in contrast with the information in the proposal, because it shows several of the intersections in the roadways as levels of service F, requiring widening of some of the roadways, creating traffic lights where none exist. Because of the bad level of service, there's the consideration for another potential entry point into the campus grounds. And so none of that is existing in what we're looking at tonight. And I'm just trying to understand, why that wasn't incorporated into your own proposal?
Let me try to answer that. The campus development agreement is based on the campus master plan that was approved in 2014. And that was based on traffic studies done as a part of that master plan. The two studies that you referenced, the one for the master plan and then the subsequent one, much of the data is consistent. And there is some divergence, but the key difference is that second traffic study, if you will, tried to segment further in greater detail, but it was also premised or took as the assumption that there was a secondary entrance to the campus. We FIU cannot control that, and so we thought it would be presumptive to include that sort of traffic study data in the campus development agreement because it presumes actions take a secondary entrance on property that is not ours. So the data that was incorporated in the campus development agreement was actually the traffic studies done for the campus master plan.
If I may just for a second, because the way I read it, it doesn't presume a second entrance. It says because of the inadequate levels of service, it recommends a second entrance, which is something different.
I see your point, but it also says you need the second entrance. Now, we don't, because of the time frame that we were given, we were unable to bring our traffic engineers here who could speak in greater detail to the specifics. We are, as a general principle, we are prepared to participate or pay our fair share of any road improvements. And so that's and that's articulated in the campus development agreement. But the data between those two studies is really pretty consistent.
Excuse me, sir. I understand what you're saying, but it's not. It looks at the level, you show the levels of service in your campus master plan as acceptable at all the choke points around the university. And in the other traffic studies, it's showing the levels of service at the main entrance of 151st Street and Biscayne Boulevard as an absolute F in all directions.
But that's not due to what we're bringing. Our load on the traffic doesn't change. It's not due to us.
Well, I'm not actually asking who caused it as much as it's not it shows it's a different result in your report, whoever caused it. That you're saying that the report that you've submitted says that problem doesn't exist. And the study that you've done subsequent to that, but before tonight, says it's a problem. And that study also doesn't look at anything west of Biscayne Boulevard on 151st Street. So I think it doesn't, it just, as I'm looking at it, it doesn't give me the information that you guys have to properly assess what's taking place on the thoroughfares that lead to your campus. So I don't know how we're supposed to act on that.
Bob, do you want to?
Well, the context area is 1 mile, perimeter around the campus. So extending beyond Biscayne Boulevard would exceed our context area. So we are limited in what we study. One of the things I think that, and I don't really recall why the second study was done in 2013. The original study was 2012. It documented, the number of trips generated on the surrounding roads at that time. And I've been involved in this for a number of years. Back in 2006, some of those intersections, the one specifically at 151st and Biscayne, was at level F. In the study that was done in 2012, it was level E. So, I guess it kind of depends on when you take the traffic counts, so anytime you do an analysis, things are going to change slightly. So depending on the date, and actually the one in 2006 didn't have MPO data. The MPO data changes. So, this really
So which one was inferior?
Excuse me?
Which one was inferior?
Well, the 2006 was, worse off than the 2012. The 2013 was back to the same way it was in 2006.
So 2 out of 3 would indicate that the bad news is the real news.
Yes, I agree. I don't think there's anything in the agreement that identifies a level of service, existing level of service. The study does, but the agreement makes reference to the study, which is the basis of, the analysis of each intersection. I think that the key point in the agreement is, like John mentioned, that it's statutory. There's no concurrency is statutorily required. It is necessary that the city identify improvements necessary to bring up the intersections to the city's comprehensive plan level of service, which is E. And if the city comes up with a plan and there are costs involved, the agreement says that FIU will work with the city on those plans and participate in the cost. So I think, that's the key point to the agreement. As far as, the second study, I think the second study was an attempt to look at solutions. That's all. It was an attempt to look at solutions on how to bring up some of the failing intersections to an acceptable level of service. That's all. But it really isn't our prerogative to decide what the city's going to do with the failing intersections. You know, we need to participate, but it's a joint effort.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Let me see if Bob was finished.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe I'd be more comfortable if you, in the proposal that you've submitted, knowing that your study calls those failed intersections in the year 2020. I mean, in all across the study, it's represented as unacceptable levels of service. But none of that's reflected in what we're trying to pass along to the city council. And I think they certainly, in the interest of fairness, need to understand what you think is going on with the traffic as it affects the city.
So you think that we should have an agreement that the traffic intersections are failing? Is that, you want some
Well,
language?
your
that-
agreement says they're not.
I will, but I just, okay.
I
But I'm gonna mention
Well,
something
maybe
else.
we need to look.
Well, I'll read it.
Let's look at specific language, and if you want to take that offline, we can do that with staff, but if you could cite some specific language that needs some editing, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll be happy to consider that, sure.
I'll be more than happy to. I mean, if you want to take a question, I'll find it for you.
All right, let's ask Mike McDermott next, if you have any comments while Bob does some research.
Okay, gentlemen, although we sort of skipped over it, traffic is very, very important to the citizens of this city. And at the last commission meeting, I asked that we have a joint workshop, not a presentation before the planning commission, but a joint workshop between yourselves, the city, and Solomia to really find out where we are as far as traffic and what streets are going to be used, widened, expanded. We need to know this because how these streets are used are very, very sensitive to a lot of members of this community. On this map, this nice little drawing you gave us tonight, I don't see any entry levels, any entry points. It's like, I'm assuming that up here at the top is 151st Street. I'm assuming there's no markings, there's no identification. All it shows is these little lines that really don't show any entrance points. We've heard about 143rd Street, 151st Street. We've heard about an entrance through Oleta State Park. None of those are addressed here. The boundary to the south, what does that boundary include? Do you have any idea? Does it include city streets? What does it include?
Again, this is an extract from the campus master plan, and this particular extract wasn't meant to capture all the entry points. So this is just one piece of a fairly extensive campus master plan.
Well, here's the thing.
I can point out the entrances to you, but that isn't what the purpose of this diagram was ever supposed to produce
Well,
or address.
the thing is, we asked this question at the last commission meeting, and everybody danced around trying to understand. Now you tell us tonight that this is sort of like traffic is sort of not your deal, that you're going to develop this huge campus without any knowledge of
No,
where the
not at
entry
all.
points-
And part of the campus master plan, there were detailed traffic studies done. So all I'm saying is this particular extract out of the master plan doesn't address it.
Well,
Again, it says element 14.3 capital improvements. So it deals just with the capital improvements on the campus.
Well,
if we find throughout the rest of the document, we would find the things that you're asking about, but not on this particular
Well, I looked
graphic.
through the document, and I didn't see. Perhaps I missed it because it's a very voluminous document. But I did not see your proposal for how you were going to expand the streets and accesses to the university to accommodate all the new students that are going to be there.
We cannot presume to act on streets that are not ours.
And
We will
so-
work with the city, but we can't plan property that doesn't belong to us.
Well, how can you envision adding 10,000 students or 20,000 students without addressing to the city exactly where you think that you're going to have to get in reverse city cooperation in order to get access for these students and staff? It's like, well, we're going to do this, and we'll work with the city. I think the reverse needs to be, what are your plans that you need to bring to the city as to how you're going to access all these future developments and population that will be on the campus?
Let me set the process of the campus master plan. We started this probably in 2011, and it continued through 2012, 13, and 14. And as part of that process, your planning department was a part of that and participated in the planning process. So it was a consultative process that involved the city. It wasn't done in isolation. And there were 2 public hearings held here in North Miami, as well as 2 down south for the main campus. And at those hearings, the opportunity to participate was certainly there.
Well,
So that was a consultative process. Now, you mentioned the numbers of growth, 10,000 and 20,000. I don't believe there are any plans for this campus to grow by 10 or 20,000. In fact, over the last few years, the actual numbers in terms of students physically on the campus has remained flat, if not decreased. So we have not increased traffic based on our student count here at BBC. Additionally, once the campus master plan was approved, it went to all the local jurisdictions, governmental jurisdictions, for comment and input, and all those comments and inputs have been addressed. So to a certain degree, we're really past that point.
Well, I don't think we're past that point. I think that we need to know what your plans are, very simply, what you envision that you're going to need from the city to expand its roadways in order to accommodate the new master plan. That's really very simple. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, may I have
Go ahead, Mr. Reach.
maybe you want your council to answer these questions. I'm looking at the campus development agreement, and on page 4, paragraph 6, geographical area covered by this agreement. If you want to get it out there, or because you opened the door before when you said specific questions and language that you would change. Okay, and just let me know when you're ready. And
Okay,
okay,
page
I'm on
4,
page,
under 6. Okay, geographic area.
The real property subject to this agreement is identified in Exhibit B attached hereto, and they are made a part hereof. Okay, now let's go to that exhibit.
Right, which is this?
Okay, now let's look at the map.
Okay.
Okay, now I presume this is a legal document that if we should end up in a litigation with FIU, City of North Miami versus, this would be introduced as evidence. Am I correct?
I would assume so, right?
Oh,
It's
okay.
between the
Everybody
parties.
have this exhibit here? Yeah. Okay. Now, it shows northeast 135th Street from Biscayne Boulevard going through our preserve, and I believe that street is called FIU Boulevard there that you have that runs around 151st going, look at 151st, and you'll see it going south, and you'll see it connecting to 135th Street.
This is my notes.
Are you with me?
I'm with
Do you agree that that's what it shows? It depicts on a map as a geographical representation of the Earth's surface drawn to scale on a plane? You agree?
I mean,
It
that is-
depicts that as going right through 135th Street.
Are you trying to say it shows 135th Street as a continuous road?
Yes, according to my eyes, it does.
Okay.
Does it not to you?
Yes.
Okay, now, let's, again, sir, look at it.
Which it is not today.
Well,
It is not.
It is a pedestrian route. It is a bicycle path. It is a means of access to people that might live reside on the south end of campus.
Okay, then why don't we depict that a little bit different? That's subject to interpretation. Let me be very candid with you. A couple of years ago, I was down, I think, at the Metropolitan Planning Organization with our former mayor, Kevin Burns, and a group of the citizens from 135th Street. And prior to that, the university came before the city council and wanted 135th Street to be open. Okay, and then there was talk about it becoming 2 lanes in each direction to 4 lanes. And adamantly, the citizens at 135th Street are opposed to that. The city is opposed to that. As a member of the Planning Commission, I don't live on that street, but I'm opposed to that. The president of the student body came before the city council and told us a number of reasons why it should be open. However, it's a 1 lane north, 1 lane south. And according to this map here, it's open. It looks to me like a continuous street. And if we get into future litigation or something like that, I certainly don't want this to come back and bite us. Let me finish, sir. To me, it depicts that it's open. And then, let me just go a little bit further why I'm suspicious. My 33 years in law enforcement gives me a suspicious mind, if you would. A few years ago, I understand FIU approached the state legislature and said something to the effect, I don't exactly remember it verbatim, but that if they wanted egress to the university, the municipality had to provide it, and 135th Street would have become not a moot issue, but a real issue where we would have opened that up and FIU could go through there. I want to make it crystal clear in this plan that under no form, fashion, or manner will 135th Street be open to vehicular traffic to go to FIU, and that preserve will be maintained. And that's it. And when I see something like this, I kind of get a little nervous and a little bit suspicious, and my due diligence is to the citizens of this community as yours is to your campus. And I'm not trying to be condescending, facetious, argumentative, or anything else, but I want to protect
May I
the
respond?
citizens. Go right ahead.
Sir, is the proper way to speak to you, Mr. Each?
Anything you want to call it.
No, I want to be respectful.
Kenneth Each, that's
Let me first state that there was no intent in this to show this as an open road. And there is nothing in the campus development agreement that presupposes or presumes 135th Street being open. We recognize that is a controversial issue. We are in our role here, we are not trying to slip that in. We are not trying to legislate that. That is not part of the campus master plan. That is not part of the campus development agreement. If we can footnote this, we can change this so that it is clear it is closed and not open to vehicular traffic.
If you could put that adjustment in, I think it would be amenable to a lot of us that 135th Street is off limits, so to speak, okay? Not subject to being open with increased pressures from a campus development. And I think if we can address that, you're going to put a lot of people's fears to rest. And that's why I brought up the fact of meeting with the city and really setting out exactly what your needs are going to be and what you're going to need from the city as you expand to bring access. So Kenny and I are sort of on the same page with that. So if you can adjust the language to indicate that there is nothing in your plan, nor will you seek to have that street open to other than the traffic that is presently there, which is basically bicycles and walking and that kind of thing.
Let me just, one other point I wanted to bring up. On page 11, subparagraph D, I believe this was the one I was looking at. There was a traffic study done on 135th Street. I read a document today that traffic study was from 12th Avenue to Biscayne Boulevard on 135th Street on the newer one, but the one I'm looking at here is 135th Street, Station 1026 two-way analysis indicates that the development identified in the project adopted FIU campus master plan, are you with me? I don't want to.
I'm following along, yes.
Okay. Campus master plan is projected to generate an additional 160 peak hours on this roadway segment. These additional trips represent approximately 8.1% of roadway capacity and are projected to degrade the level of service on this segment. Now, is that, I presume it's not east of the boulevard, but I did see, and this is a voluminous document.
Sir, if I may?
Yeah.
I was asked this question by Mr. Nixon, and we did check to find out where that station is located. It's west of Biscayne Boulevard on 135th Street. So this is measuring the trips coming onto Biscayne Boulevard from 135th
From
Street.
135th.
From the west, as if coming
Okay,
from I-95.
you answered my
Yeah.
question, thank you, that's good, okay. 'Cause I did read that today in another document, and I thought that's what that station was, but I just wanted to be clear on that. Okay, so in no form, fashion, or manner then do I see anything east of 135th Street?
Not on 135th Street.
Okay, so let's clarify that in the document on this thing.
Sir, to your point, Mr. McDermott,
Yes.
we will certainly clarify the language, we will clarify the graphic. In full honesty, I can't, you asked that we will not seek or will not pursue. I can't assure you of that in this agreement. That's not what this agreement is about. So I understand the controversy, but that's not what this development agreement is about. I can't tell you what the university, and we will not pursue anything independent of the city. So we are working with the city. We worked with the city as a campus master, during the campus master plan. And so together we'll work out what solutions we need for the traffic.
Sir, didn't you just say that you would add language and change it? Didn't we just hear that a few moments ago? Or am I-
That it does not presume 135th Street being open. Absolutely. We will clarify that because this plan and this agreement does not have 135th Street being open.
Let me ask you this question, though. So your second study, the most recent traffic study, recommends the need, without massive changes to 151st Street and Biscayne Boulevard, the need for an additional entrance to the campus. And I'm not sure where else that would exist.
That particular study, if you looked at it, talked about an entrance around at the level of 145th and 144th Street, where there's actually today a walkable land bridge that was built there. So conceivably, something could be engineered to where you could have an entrance there. But that is not an easy solution, but it is possible.
So can I revert
Sorry,
back to just something for a second? You asked a minute ago about the differences in the studies. And the proposal that you've got in front of us with this book, you talk about just the entrance in front of the university.
Right, that's all it is.
Let's just take a look at that. So we're not talking about 151st and Biscayne, just the entrance in front of the university, the Bay Vista Boulevard, shows the levels of service at each of those locations. It's 3 northwest and southbound traffic, level of service A, and B. Sounds like the world's in pretty good shape in 2020. Your study that you did subsequent to that shows the levels of service at that intersection to be an F, requiring traffic signals and 2 additional lanes of traffic. How can you ignore that and submit to us that the world is sunny and rosy I don't understand the distinction. You chartered the study subsequent to this, and you've chosen to ignore it. And I don't get it.
I just want to correct one thing that John may have misinterpreted. That the subsequent study only addressed entrances to the university on the adjacent road. It had nothing to do with the connection to Biscayne Boulevard. What has happened is we have a school and in need of an additional access point from the public road. That's all. So there is an additional access point there. And I think there was a suggestion where now there's a stop sign that we put a traffic signal in there. But this is just at the campus, not on the public road. This is where the campus interfaces with the public road.
I stand corrected. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mike.
I'm still real, I don't know, maybe I'm just missing something here, and excuse me, maybe I didn't take my ginkgo biloba this morning or something, but, you know, I'm real uncomfortable approving a master plan that doesn't tell us where access. I mean, I've never seen a master plan that doesn't say, this is the road we're gonna use, this is the road we think we're gonna use, this is the kind of thing we're gonna go to the city. I just, it's like taking something in abstract without knowing all the details surrounding it. And that's why I suggested at the last meeting that, and I appreciate your presentation, but my motion was at our last commission that we get this, listen, we have a very competent city staff here. They're very sharp. They know what they're doing. They can produce for us. Okay? I'm of putting together a workshop so that the public can have input between Solomia and their plans, you and your master plan, and the city master plan, so we can really figure out where the traffic is and where it's going. Now, that's not rocket science, and I think it's really needed. You know, Kenny's right. I mean, you look at this, and we saw this, and this is one of the items of concern at our last meeting about 135th Street going right into your project. But even over and above 135th, which is of great importance to the citizens of the city, I know that we've had a lot of people. We have a mayor and a city councilman here with us tonight who are very involved in making sure that preserve happened. And thank you, Mayor Burns, and thank you, Councilman Galvin, for making that happen. They work so hard to do that. And there has been, as Kenny pointed out, several attempts to go around them and to go around the city to perhaps, you know, in a very underhand, I won't say underhanded, but in a very quiet way to try and go around with the needs and desires of the city and its citizens are, particularly on 135th Street. I just can't, somebody explain to me how you create a master plan and you don't see where the roads are and where they are and where they need to be. I particularly going through to 2020, I mean, come on. I mean, am I missing something here? Somebody?
Well, no, Mike. What the problem, gentlemen, and we need to recognize this. The university does not exist in a bubble. You've got attractive land. There's now a major public school right across the street from you. There's a major parks and rec facility, a stadium, if you will, just up the road from you. And so Lamia is going to go in with a massive residential plan and roads of their own. And nobody's on the same page talking about access. Nobody has addressed the question of a collaborative need to widen 151st.
Biscayne.
And there seems to be references in your master plan to adding 2 more lanes to Biscayne Boulevard somewhere. I would think FDOT would probably want to take a look at that. And we're trying to adopt some agreement that puts you in a bubble and isolates you from the other major elements along 151st. And add to it, then you produce a map that, as maps go, introduced into court to a jury, that's going to look like a road on 135th. Nowhere does it say pedestrian and bicycle access, and we would like to
Mr.
avoid.
Chair, we are happy to edit that particular graphic. If it gives you any comfort, the existing agreement that we have that was signed in December of 2012 essentially has the same graphic, and it is depicted in the same way. We have not opened the road to vehicular traffic, so it existed then.
I want to get this in.
To give you comfort to correct that, we can certainly do that, but it is in the existing agreement that is still in effect today. And
Well, may I address one other question with this, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
I downloaded this today, when we got, I guess it's in the master plan here, but on page 11-4, it's dated March 27, 2014. Is that the other traffic study, the newer one? March 27, 2014, Florida International University Campus Master Plan. And it's policy number 211.12. Do we have that there? I'll give you a chance to look it up. Go ahead.
And, I don't have that here.
Let me see if it's, let's look in this book here. Is it, would it be in this one?
Well, the thing is, I think I just want to make something clear, just so that we're all on the same page. The master plan itself has already been adopted.
Okay.
Right? So we've already gone through, and I don't know if you're all familiar. I know that Mr. LeBron did reference statute 1013.30, but that statute basically outlines the process involved both in the master plan and also in the campus development agreement, right? So the purpose of this agreement is really just to express what concurrency requirements, right, would apply for the campus, for the adopted campus master plan. So, and I just also just wanted to add just this note. I don't think there's any objections on our end to work together with the city, as John mentioned before, and I think the agreement does clarify and does express that FIU is, you know, we're happy to be part of the community, and we are here, and the statute is in line with that. We will agree to pay our fair share as to whatever developments, you know, whatever would affect, whatever our university would affect in terms of the street and so forth. So I just wanted to add those 2 points, but if you haven't had a chance to look at the statute, I think it would be important for you to understand the process itself involved in the actual campus development. It's a little bit different than the campus master plan, right? This is almost like a second step to it, but the master plan is really where I think there were, I wasn't involved in that process, but my understanding is that's where comments taken from city, from other city residents and from councilmen. Again, I wasn't part of that process, so they may be a little more familiar with it, but that's where those, you know, there's a steering committee involved, and that's more where those concerns were addressed at that point. So this is just a second part which addresses concurrency requirements and what we feel, but again, FIU is very happy to be part of this community, and we want to cooperate as Mr. McDermott, I'm sorry, mentioned. So I just wanted to add those 2 cents. So
My concern is this. Now,
Mike is fine.
I'm looking at a document dated December 18th, 2012. Now I'm looking at another document that I was able to get off the computer with March 27, 2014. And I'll have copies made for you, but let me just read this to you. Policy 21112. Due to traffic congestion at the main access to the campus, in parentheses, US 1 Biscayne Boulevard / Northeast 151st Street intersection, a second vehicular access point is necessary to ease congestion and serve as an emergency evacuation route due to the nature of the development. Parentheses, school, university, housing, health center, etc. Per figure 11.3b, one of these 2 options should be considered for providing this critical vehicular access, period. FIU will coordinate with the state, regional, municipal, and private partners to secure this additional access to the campus. Now, when I look at the diagram, here we are on another map, another representation. It shows potential second vehicular access to BBC from Biscayne Landings, okay? Then it shows another potential second vehicular access to BBC from Northeast 135th Street. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason that we are concerned is because under no form, fashion, or manner does this commission, I believe the city council, and I believe the citizens of North Miami want to see 135th Street upset. Let us go back in history a little bit, if I may. I don't mean to pontificate. I came to this city in 1970. I believe it was 1968, that the city of North Miami passed a $12 million bond issue, which was a substantial amount of money to save that area out there from private development. If it wasn't for the city of North Miami and the residents at that time, FIU would not be out there, neither would Olita State Park, neither would a lot of the other enterprises that we have out there. In good faith, we want to keep that street closed. Under no form, fashion, or manner is that going to be open. And the reason that we might sound hostile to the university right now is because of past practices. A couple of years ago, like I mentioned before, the state legislature, we are leery. And if we could clarify that unequivocally, undeniably, legally binding, that the university on no form, fashion, or manner will pursue that that preserve up in the future, go to the legislature or anything else, we have a deal. But if not, we're not gonna go.
Mr. Chair, if I may, as a point of order, I think I can address your concern, Commissioner Each, if I may.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Galdos.
The City of North Miami's comp plan requires the maintenance, protection, and preservation of 135th Street, as well as the Arch Creek Preserve. That's in our comprehensive plan. Florida statute requires that there's no conflict between that plan and your campus master plan. Is that correct?
Right.
Florida statute also requires that there's no conflict between the campus development agreement and that comprehensive plan. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Well, you
Would
take
it be
the-
asking
right.
too much to include what's already
Right.
there? What is your requirement under the statute in this plan, so that we can once and for all
I think we can-
quash the concern that we have?
Right.
A paranoia based on facts, because there's been an overt attempt in the past to undermine that preserve. Even though we have a declaration of restrictive use running with the land. So, I mean, it's consistent with Florida law that you have to you cannot be in conflict with those policy provisions in our comprehensive plan. Thank you.
All right,
Mr. Chairman?
all right, and then we need to get the other
All right,
members of the commission an
two quick
opportunity.
things. Number one, that's all well and good about not being in conflict with the comp plan, but obviously there were two attempts made irregardless. So I definitely think something very specific has to be in writing. And I also think that, again, the cart before the horse. We have no idea where they really are planning access points. How do you say, we're going to build all these buildings, and then we'll figure out where the access points are going to be? No, they need to sit down. That's why I called for the workshop, because the citizens of this city, particularly on the east side, I'm sure, and Central City, and all over North Miami, are really wondering, where is all these roads going to be? What kind of traffic there is going to be? What kind of needs are there? And we still don't have that answer.
All right, thank you. I think you see where this is going. You're wanting us to approve this. We want the declarations clarified before we do. Now, let's go ahead and ask Ms. Belay, do you have any comments or input?
My fellow commissioners share the same concerns that I share with them. You have answered in so many words some of the questions that we have. However, as our city attorney stated, why not just put it in writing? That's kind of where I'm at. They've pretty much said everything. At this point, it's just a question of putting it in writing.
We're looking for an affirmative declaration in black and white that you're abandoning all access through 135th Street.
You can understand my situation. I cannot make that statement to you here tonight.
Okay.
Now, what I can also tell you is, in the process of the campus master plan, the campus master plan is approved. What we're negotiating is the campus development agreement. There are references, and now, you all are planners. In that campus master plan, it was presented, as you said, Commissioner Each, alternatives. 135th Street, 145th, others. It doesn't say they will. It presents those as potential options. But they're not, they are potential options that we cannot dictate autonomously. They would have to be done in cooperation, in coordination, and with the city's approval.
Well, then
So
you
we
need
would-
to take that potential off your list of potentials.
It is in the master plan, which is already approved, and at this point, just from a procedural perspective, we can't modify that.
Of course you can.
Yes, you can.
No, not in this master plan. It's already approved, sir.
Master
And
plan
the
did
city had ample opportunity to participate in that planning process and to comment on it. So really, at this point, procedurally, we're past that. I'm not saying we would ever do that. Anything we do will be done with you and working with you. And we will participate in workshops. But that's not what this campus development agreement is about.
But if we don't approve this tonight,
Then you can have the workshop, and then we'll change it. And then you can come back and we'll address it. But
I mean,
I think, let me try to sum it up this way. I think it's clear that the planning commission is adamantly opposed to the presentation at this point because you have left the door open on 135th as a viable alternative, even though the city's comprehensive plan closed that door years ago, and the actions of your own highly paid lobbyists have gone contrary to the master plan and wishes of the city, and that you've attempted twice to override this 135th Street issue. So there's a serious credibility problem here with the university on this particular point. And we're not prepared to approve this. And for you to tell us the master plan is already approved, you know, plans get amended every day of the week in this state. And amending them is much easier than you realize. And it can be done. And before we approve an agreement that has a serious problem with a map that is obviously ill-conceived, and before we go ahead and approve something that is diametrically in conflict with the city's master plan and comprehensive plan, we've got a problem here. And I don't see how you're going to overcome that in the space of 5 minutes of verbal declaration, because realistically, 2 years down the road, nobody's going to know what you said. They'll only know what you've written.
And what is written in the campus development agreement is nothing that addresses or opens 135th Street. That is not there.
Oh, no, except it's
what'd you say? It's not fair?
not
Well,
there.
not there. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's not
I got my hearing aid.
No,
Yeah,
that is
well-
not there. There's nothing that says, references 135th Street in the campus development agreement.
well, there's a
Or
lot
that-
of supplementary documentation that really raises that issue, and I think that it needs to be addressed, and particularly in light of past practices. I think that, again, as the chairman pointed out, these plans are amended on a daily basis all over the state of Florida on many different levels of government. So I don't see that that would be an issue. I think that it would certainly strengthen the ties between the city and FIU if perhaps we could all come to that understanding of how important that particular issue is. I'm still wondering why we can't get a view of where the streets are going to be and where the traffic's going to be. But all that aside, I think we need to really address this issue, because as you can see, no one is in favor of approving this. I can only speak for myself, but the indications from my fellow board members is that nobody is really in favor of this tonight. There's a lot of other things, like, for instance, fair share. What does fair share mean? You're going to fair share expenses? I mean, we can go, I understand, council, but, you know, there's a lot of other minor issues that you know, the commissioner each brought up, and I think Commissioner Pouchon as well. So we need to do something about 135th Street. It is vital, not only to your moving forward, but also your relationship with the city, I think.
All right, let me, Mr. Pinchon, you...
Yeah, just finally, I mean, you asked a question of me earlier, and I want to answer it. that in your proposed development plan, all of the traffic, A through E, the analysis of the traffic ends with the sentence that the adopted FIU campus master plan should not degrade the operating conditions of the roadway below the level of service standards. So if we agree to this, we're agreeing with you today that all those roads are gonna be fine. And that if any problems exist with traffic down the road, it's clearly not your responsibility, because we've agreed that everything's gonna be fine with your plan. Yet you have a subsequent traffic study that says those roads are at F levels of service. So I would be more inclined to want to agree to a plan that clearly identifies the fact that you already believe that there's gonna be improvements needed, and your fair share will certainly be called upon to contribute.
Absolutely.
Then that would make me a little happier.
We can do that. That we certainly can do. The principle there is we would contribute our fair share based on our load on the traffic.
I just want you to take the information that you spent the money to gather that says that they will be degraded below the levels of service that are acceptable. Because that's what your study says.
Our load will not degrade them.
Well, your study, I'm not sure what your study said will degrade it, because your study, which was several months after this, calls it an F. And there was no attribution as to the cause of the F, as there was no attribution to the cause of the A in the report that you submitted. So I just think you can't have it both ways.
We're not asking for it both ways.
All right. With due respect, question now to Mr. Galdos. Having listened to the commission, and Jason James has decided not to have input at this point, it's clear that the commission would vote this down if it went to a vote. Now, in past, when we've had a controversial issue, the applicant has been given the opportunity to step away and make the revisions and come back. The alternative would be to deny this motion before us when the motion is made. I would solicit your comments and thoughts.
Well, the code requires that you approve or deny and submit to the council for final consideration your reasons for such approval or reasons for such denial. However, if the parties are willing to bring back to this body, and I believe we have 180 days after we receive the document in which to,
Well, it's 180 days with the staff really, and then I think it's once we agree, then it goes to the 2 public hearings. So this is,
Right.
because we agreed with staff,
this is
right?
considered one public
Right,
hearing.
this is the first one.
And by the way, you had a bite at the apple at the last hearing, but it was a no-show, so, but.
Well,
so
no, it's
we're-
not that it was a no-show. We were notified the same day of the hearing, so,
Okay, well, we were here, but,
well, we would have been here, we would have been notified.
okay. So it's up to you. The planning commission will vote up or down, submitting its recommendations, the reasons why, to the mayor and council for their final consideration. Or you modify the agreement addressing some of the commissioners' concerns. And then come back and we would have to entertain that and then move forward.
Would you give us a minute just to talk
Yes,
among ourselves?
Take a minute to confer.
We're gonna step out for 1 second.
Can we step out? Would that be all right?
Yes, if you'd like, we can suspend this part of the session and take perhaps another item on the agenda and allow you to come back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want any of these documents to look at?
I don't think we need them, right? I don't think we need them. Thank you.
All right, at this point, we will suspend consideration of PCO 1-16 pending the return of the representatives from FIU. And in order to move this hearing forward, we'll go on to item 5, PC 20-15, A resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving the vacation, abandonment, and sale of a portion of a city-owned right-of-way for Northwest 13th Avenue, measuring 114 feet long and 60 feet wide, lying immediately north of Northwest 119th Street, between Block 17 and 32 of Sunkist Grove, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 8, page 49 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County. Further authorizing the interim city manager to negotiate the sale of the subject portion of the right-of-way in accordance with Chapter 29, Article 3, Division 9 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinances, Land Development Regulations, and to take all necessary steps to effectuate the conveyance, providing for an effective date and for all of the purposes. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chair, we do have the staff report ready, but it appears that the applicants are not present. And so, and I think, as a point of order, the matter may be to be deferred.
Mr. Chair, with your approval, we could move that item to the last item on the agenda, presuming that, or giving the benefit of the doubt to the applicant to make an appearance. Otherwise, we'll defer it to a subsequent meeting. And if we may, we can proceed with PC 0216. Is the applicant
All
here?
right, we can move along with that. Let's, and then if they don't appear by the end of the night, then it's automatically continued to the next month.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get to that package. Just a moment. We have a lot of material here. Okay, here we go. Now this is PC 02-16. A resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving a tentative plat request from CRP Westport Self-Storage, 125th LLC, doing business as U.S. Storage Centers, to consolidate 4 adjacent parcels specifically identified by Miami-Dade County folio numbers 06-2229-042-0190, 06-2229-042-0220, 06-2229-042-0222, and 06-2229-042-0240 into one single parcel with one single folio number in accordance with Article 3, Division 8, Section 3-802 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinances, Land Development Regulations, in Chapter 28, Section 28-7B of the Miami-Dade County Code of Ordinances, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. Staff report, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, members of the audience. This is our tentative plat to replat in 4 adjacent parcels. The applicant, CRP Westport Self-Storage, 125th LLC, recently acquired those properties. Their intention is to build a storage facility there. They have submitted their site plans to the Development Review Committee, which have since approved them. And then he also submitted a unity of title that was reviewed by our city attorney for legal sufficiency, which also be approved, so they can continue with their building permits, because that was one of the conditions of the DRC. However, while they're doing this, they also want to consolidate those lots into one parcel with one folio number, and then this is really the purpose of this application tonight. So again, this application we have solicited input from other city departments, public works, and as well as peer review, and the applicant have addressed all those comments, and staff have also reviewed in this application as per the standards, in applicable standards of the land development regulations, and we are recommending approval of the tentative plat. And then, as with the condition, listed in at the end of the staff report. So with that, the applicant is also here to address all your questions that you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If the applicant would please state your name and business address.
My name is Mitchell Feldman. I guess I'll give you my address is 10065 Bay Harbor Terrace, Bay Harbor Islands. I am one of the partners and owners of the project. So hopefully I can answer any questions you may have. Don't make them too hard.
I have one offhand. Have you had any discussions at all with the railroad projects that are coming there, since somewhere in that vicinity is the intention to build a railway station?
We haven't, other than that the railroad does own, obviously, the piece of property across the street from us. That was at one point, I guess someone leased it for cars. I really haven't been in discussions with them about what they're planning at that point. But it would be not on our property. I mean, it would be across. I don't even know if they could build there. But to answer your question, no, we haven't spoken to them about where they're planning their rail station.
All right, very good.
Mr. Chairman?
Well, we got to open the public hearing first. All right. This time we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this is invited to come forward, state your name and address. Second request, anyone wishing to speak to this? Stony silence.
No thunder or cloud?
Yes, no thundering heard, no rising cloud of dust. I presume none wish to speak to this, therefore the public hearing is closed. At this point, Commissioner McDermott.
Question. Parcel 1. You see parcel 1 on your map there?
I don't have it in front of me.
Can staff-
The property that fronts 125th Street.
Yes.
Parcel 1. Here's my concern. We are trying our very, very best to develop 125th Street into a major office complex. We want to upgrade our city.
Right.
Now, although I agree that what you're planning to build with parcels 2, 3, and 4 probably is going to be an upgrade of what is already there, my concern is parcel 1, which fronts 125th Street. I would not like to see that could be an entryway into the warehouse. I would hate to see public storage right on 125th Street. Yes, you want to...
Which it is. We're using that strictly as an entranceway, and we've actually added landscaping to make it nice. We understand the desire of the city, and we've been working very close with the city. We've adopted their comments as well, and there's actually, and Nelson, tell me if I'm right, we're not building on that piece. Our office starts on the back piece, so that would mostly be just parking, landscape, and
All right.
and what? And public art we're putting there.
Oh, okay.
Very nice.
So, just again, for me, that was going to be my question. What's going to take place on that parcel? So is that the entrance to
So
the
it's
warehouse?
interesting. So this site, the property is unique in that we have that front access,
Right.
and then we have, just you can see on your map, that we have both side streets for loading. So we're not really having loading in the front. That would just be parking where they come to the office, and the office starts on the next parcel. So that's more like a showpiece where there'd be landscape, the public art that we're adding, and just parking for tenants.
So it's really not designed to be trucks pulling in to
No,
get their
not
stuff
at all.
and...
Right, not at all. The trucks would come to the loading zones, which is what's unique about this property. We'll have loading in two sides of the property and not interfere with anything on 125th
Well,
Street.
as long as parcel 1 is used as an entranceway and decorative, and you say we're going to have some artwork there?
I'm not exactly sure what we're putting there, but we've been working with the city very closely.
Okay, because we need to preserve the frontage on
Absolutely.
125th Street, to hopefully to draw more development, mixed use and that kind of thing there.
Exactly. And on a side note, I live up the street, so I drive by this property all the time, so I'm proud of it, and we want to do something that you'll be proud of as well.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Reach.
I have two self-storage areas. Within a stone's throw of where I live. One on the other side of the lake on Arch Creek Road, and the other one on 16th Avenue. And let me tell you, I'm glad they're there. The one on Arch Creek Road is Can you hear me now? I'm sorry. The one on Arch Creek Road is absolutely beautiful. The landscaping is terrific. You don't hear any noise coming out of the place. It's well maintained. And the same thing on the same owners on 16th Avenue. It's absolutely, just the landscaping alone just improved that area. There's no traffic congestion, there's no noise, it's nothing. I walk by there every day. It's just really well maintained, and I'm glad they're there. Instead of having some retail establishment there or commercial establishment, they really do a good job. I like your plan, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, not yet. Mr. James, do you have any comments?
The other commissioners said that loading is an issue. When they're doing the DRC review, are they allowed to have any type of restrictive covenants or anything so that we can make sure that that loading takes place in the rear of the property like the applicant said?
I mean, to answer your question, Commissioner, I mean, those plans, whatever they submit for the building permits, they have to be substantially in compliance with the DRC site plan. So if anything, at that point, they don't meet those requirements, we can either not issue a certificate of occupancy or even going further, not issue a certificate of use for the property, for the business, because they have to adhere to those conditions.
Yeah, I understand, but like right now we can't. I mean, we're talking about loading and stuff, but we can't do anything because that's
No,
not
but
what's in front of
this
us.
application is only for the
It's just
platting,
for
for the
T-plat.
replatting of the property.
Correct.
I mean, yes, they go parallel to each other, but really one has no bearing on the other.
Yeah, but I just heard the applicant say that the loading will occur in the rear. I'm just asking the question whether or not the
No, but-
DRC can set conditions to say this loading will only happen.
No, that definitely, because there are already requirements in the code as far as to the loading for, storage facilities.
Oh, okay, already in the LDRs. Sorry. That's it.
All right, very good. Ms. Boulay, do you have any input?
I was just trying to get understanding as to the parcels that you guys were talking about, but answered my own questions, so thank you.
All right. If there's no further input, the chair will call for a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the application.
All right, we'll take the motion then from Mike McDermott. Kenny, you want to second that?
Second.
Kenny will second it. Further discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Yes, one
Appreciate it.
hopes for the best. All right, now before we return to FIU, let's address the last issue and then we can wrap this up. This will be PC 03-16, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, authorizing the designation of the commercial areas along Northwest 7th Avenue between Northwest 119th Street to Northwest 135th Street as a Chinatown Cultural Arts and Innovation District. Further authorizing the interim city manager to do all things necessary to create a master plan to serve as a design guide to ensure the future growth of the subject area, providing for an effective date and for all of the purposes. Staff report, please.
Yes, good evening, Chairman, Mr. Chairman, and members of the Planning Commission. This item was sponsored by, District 4 Councilman, Mr. Alex Desolme. Essentially, it seeks to designate, the commercial areas along Northwest 7th Avenue between Northwest 119th Street, which is the southern, boundaries of the city, up to Northwest 135th Street as a Chinatown Cultural Arts and Innovation District. The commission has been working with our group, they have submitted a letter of support, for that item. I mean, Northwest 7th Avenue has been, for years, plagued with disinvestment, and there have been some urban decay going along that corridor. And the city has, over the years, make several attempts to really revitalize that corridor. And then, we talk about, you know, the CRA as a facade improvement grant. We're talking about on the major corridor in downtown, you know, we development plan which all try to identify strategies, you know, to really bring life to the corridor. And then this effort by the commissioner is another attempt to really bring life to the to that corridor. So really, I mean, it has tried to work with a group, you know, with designing, I mean, specialize in creating, you know, Chinatown, you know, across the United States. You know, they trying to designate that a segment of the corridor to really bring, you know, some sort of, you know, a cultural, you know, in arts and innovation district to bring life again to the corridor. So, I mean, as you can see in the staff report, this effort is really encouraged by the city comprehensive and essentially like goal 9 of the city complaint, which require that the city create conditions that enhance the economic prosperity of local business and attract new business in the area. So innovation district, you know, when you look at it, you know, from a scholarly standpoint, those are geographic areas, you know, where leading edge, you know, anchor institutions and companies cluster and connect with startup business incubators and accelerators. And they are really, they stand really in contrast with other, you know, districts in that, you know, they tend to increase the supply of new jobs in the long run, and then also using out of the box, you know, strategies, you know, to really promote redevelopment along those corridors. And then we think, you know, because of, you know, the rise of China as, you know, one of the leading, you know, trading, you know, and commercial, you know, power in the world, we think, you know, the creation of the designation of this corridor would be able to usher, you know, billions or millions or if not billions of, you know, investment, you know, not just in the United States, but in the corridor, and then in terms of, you know, foreign direct investment, and then which can really be of, you know, can be of really great help to that corridor. So our recommendation is that, you know, the city council, you know, I mean the planning commission, you know, recommend approval to the city council for that resolution, and allow staff, you know, to further allow staff, you know, to work on creating that master plan to serve as a design guide to ensure the future growth of the subject area. And I don't think the councilman is not here, but, you know, we have, you know, members of staff also present to answer some of the questions that you may have.
First question I have, was this at all presented to the Beacon Council?
No, it hasn't been presented yet to the Beacon Council.
Okay.
I mean, this really an effort to designate that area, and then in further, otherwise, you know, the city manager, you know, to create a master plan. And as part of the master plan, I think there will be a steering committee. Then we can involve all the partners and stakeholders, you know, that would help with the designation.
Do we have any Asian themed businesses within this district?
Yes.
That's to staff.
I mean, currently, I mean, I think we have probably one, but we don't really have a cluster of Asian businesses right now.
Okay. I could see this working well on 167th Street. I'm less enthused about it here, but I understand. Everybody has to start somewhere. All right. Let's open this up for council discussion. I'll start to my left. Ms. Boulay, any thoughts?
Public
Public hearing.
Sorry, forgot about that.